sometimes.
Okay, it is 7:11. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting for January 8th to order. And let's see. We have a lot of guests. So our visitors, if you could please state your name loud enough for the clerk to hear and write down. We'll start with Billy.
Billy Heron.
Billy Heron.
Jess Silham.
Jess.
Lorraine Gilliland.
Lorraine.
Denise Halling.
David Budrius.
Lawrence Wallach.
Richard Durr.
All right. And we have Scott and Treasurer Conrath. Okay. Did you get all those, Janice?
Almost.
Okay. Just let me know when you're ready.
Richard
Durr. Yep. Marge. And then Levi is not here yet. But I didn't hear anything from him, so I'll check the email. Yeah, nothing from him, so, okay. Real quick before we go forward with additions to the agenda, the way I set this up tonight, kind of the structure of it was to go through the stuff kind of as this current council, and like to approve last month's minutes, kind of clean up approval of bills of December, and then we would swear in ourselves. Really, the difference is I'll be coming back on the council and Tim Tipton will be stepping off. So, but that way we could get through this, and then stuff going forward will be as a new council.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I set that up. So feel free. That's the reason for that. And then we had some additions to the agendas, so we'll start with Sherry.
The mutual aid agreement for the wastewater service providers.
And she sent that out to us. And I think also printed copies. And I have a couple
Janice did.
points of information to add at the end. Just,
I have a couple issues too.
okay,
I'd like to revisit the fine that was imposed on the city by the...
yeah, that's on here, right?
Attorney General.
That's about 3/4 of the way down.
Oh, yeah.
City's fine to
Yep.
the Attorney General's office.
And the leaking truck out here on the road that's leaking either diesel or engine oil.
Okay.
I'd like to know what the status of that is.
Leaking truck status. And then also along those lines, I'll get a status update too on the light poles. And how we're going about that. Any other additions, council? And then we'll have a section 2 for public comment at the end, so we can bring any of that stuff up. Okay. So we have the approval of the minutes for the regular council meeting on December 11th, as well as a special meeting on the 30th, but I'll entertain a motion for the 11th ones first.
For the minutes you're talking about?
Minutes for the December 11th regular council meeting, regularly scheduled council meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember McClellan,
Second.
by Tipton. Any comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And you're,
Should I abstain still in here? Does it matter?
no, you can abstain. Any against? Abstain?
I'll abstain, I
Okay,
guess.
so 301.
I don't know that it matters or not, but
That's fine. If you weren't here to approve them, you don't know what they were.
yeah. I mean, I guess I could look through it and say, yeah, it looks good, but
Yeah.
I wasn't part of the conversation.
Okay, and then the council meeting minutes for our special meeting on December 30th.
I move that the minutes for special council meeting on the 30th of December be accepted as presented.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Davenport. Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Luck, seconds. Any further comment? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 4-0. Thank you, council. Actually, one other thing here too, sorry. 7, 11. So down here in the, Jeff Talkington is also here as a guest. One of the things that came up earlier, it's about 3/4 of the way down, it says city, not city's fine. It's near the bottom, December payroll inquiry. That's the email that I sent out to you guys. That's a personnel issue. I don't know, it'd probably be, if I don't know if the email provided you guys enough information to where you're comfortable with it, but I think if you want to discuss it more, that's probably more suited for an executive session since it's personnel related. But that's your guy, I don't know. And so it's at the bottom, but it really pertains to last.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys, how you want to do it.
It's a citizen that brought it up.
It's still,
I understand what you're saying, but
so I've talked to both the city employees that it affected, and I talked to all the council members. So if the citizen brought it up, they could either probably talk to a council member or talk to the employee directly,
they have talked to a council member.
and they're still not satisfied, or, I mean, I don't know.
They have not heard the explanation directly from you.
Have they asked?
Yes. Not necessarily, I'm sorry.
It's just a personnel issue that I don't know that I think of the school board, like when I go to the school board meetings and they have personnel issues, they're not in the public session. So, I don't think it's fair for personnel issues to be, I don't say it's even fair, I don't know if it's even legal for personnel to be discussed in that fashion.
Okay.
Are you asking if you pertaining to that email? Is there any more discussion from us on it? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Or if they wanted more discussion, if we had to have executive session, or does that email cover it enough to your satisfaction to what the council needs to know?
Satisfies
I'm
me.
satisfied with what was in the email.
I'm satisfied.
Well, one of the employees is here and says he's not satisfied, so if we can have an open session, I don't care. I just,
Yeah. I don't-
I just want to make sure.
I mean, because do we even if we say anything, do we have a say in that matter when it comes down to it? Besides voicing anything,
According to the policy, no.
yeah.
I mean,
what is
the
it?
policy that I did not write, but that I followed, but I did not write, no. Well, we can discuss it, that's fine. And if it gets out of, somebody thinks it's too much and need to go to executive session, we'll do that then, if that's fair. Okay. So leave that on there. So now we're down to the approval of the December bills. Janice passed those out. You'll notice they look a little different. Janice did these today in Excel. So now we have them digitized, and so, one thing like we did with our budget, this is the first time, so we can play with it, but if we want to do the numbering system like we did with our Excel for our budget, so if there's a specific question, we can say on line number 23.
I like that system, just so it's right. You can just say whatever line, and everybody can go to that point pretty easily.
Next month also, the claims and stuff will be on the bias system. It won't be on Excel. So
So we'll figure it's just a work in
Yeah.
process.
this is just
Absolutely.
a work in process. And just know that like the treasury, DOR, there's 4 things that aren't on there. Those reports haven't been completed yet. So work in progress right now.
You also see, this is kind of pertaining to our last conversation, is the public forum. Under current expense, about halfway, third of the way down, Lincoln County Fire District number 6 for fire calls, $144. So that was for the fire calls that were in the month of December that the city got billed for. That just that kind of pertained to what we just had.
That was all at the school. Those false alarms, those things.
The entry for A Vista City Park and Office, $1,018. What's that for? Is that for?
The electricity,
Power to the,
I also believe
That's
that
their split.
that's their split for that. And it also then applies to like you'll see down here utilities, $1,300 in water. And then sewer has almost $2,000. Is that right? No, I'm sorry.
Well-
$900. 2,000 was AAA lab, so that's just a big bill, and that's just how it gets split up.
Gosh, Vista's in every category,
Yes.
except garbage.
Yeah.
save for garbage.
Yeah,
And oh yeah, no, there's cemetery too. All right. If there's no questions, or we'll take a
Quick question
yeah.
under street, and it may be in other ones, but that's where I noticed it. What's the difference between the Wex Bank fuel card and the Grain Supply?
So the Wex Bank is like if they're in Spokane, it's a Chevron card.
Okay, just a different
yeah.
fuel card. Okay. I think we may discuss that before. I just couldn't remember. Thank you.
The company did a name change. I know that.
That's just who issues the credit card on behalf of Chevron.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's just I was
But yeah,
wondering
so
why
they're-
there was two fuel.
Yeah, if they're at it, if they're not in striking distance of the gas.
Gotcha. Okay.
Two questions, charges from the Lincoln County Auditor election expense under current expense, $421. Is that for the past election?
That was
I
for
presume.
these-
It's not for the February election, is it? We don't prepay those expenses, do we?
That was
The November election?
the
November.
November
Uh-huh.
election.
And the BIOS software, 1381.
That
Huh?
was split 4 different ways.
It's what?
It was split 4 different ways.
Uh-huh.
So
So
this is this the last half?
5,525.
This is the second half. So they agreed last year to let us pay half of it up front, because they wanted all $10,000 up front. And I said, we didn't plan on this. So they said, okay, you can pay half now, and we'll let you pay half on January 2nd. So this is the second half of that split, under current expense, water, sewer, and garbage. Is how we, because that's where it's gonna be used in those funds for those services.
I move the bills be paid as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Davenport. Second by Councilmember Tipton. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Vote no, same sign. Abstain. All right, passes 4-0. Prior to purchase. Okay, thank you, council. This next one is just a formality, so we have it in our minutes. The formal approval by the council of the new city clerk. So obviously, in our last meeting, in our budget, everything was based around hiring a new person, but we didn't formally do that. So this is just a formality of the council. I sent information to you guys as well earlier on that, saying that I had the authority, the mayor had the authority to hire or fire without the council's express approval. But I think the council, based on the budget meetings, we all inherently approved it anyway, but this is just for the minutes. So I'd like to accept, or I'll entertain a motion to approve Janice Cepeda as our new city clerk.
do we not need an ordinance?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's what I saw in the RCWs, that there was an ordinance required.
So do you know what ordinance that is?
I don't, but I can look up the,
So for the purpose of this, I'd like to at least
okay,
formally approve her by the council. And if we have to go back later and update with an ordinance, we can do that, but at least we have this for our minutes.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
I move that we accept Janice Cepeda as our new city clerk. Is that the
Second.
correct pronunciation? Sure.
All right, motion by Luck, second by Davenport.
I think
No,
Sherry might
Sherry.
beat me.
Sherry, okay.
Sherry.
Seconded by McClellan. Any further discussion? And Sherry, or Councilmember McClellan will look up the RCW if we have to have an ordinance for that. It's been 40 years since we've had a new clerk.
Yeah,
Right.
No one here knows that. All right, indicate by saying, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, passes 4-0, thank you. Okay,
Congratulations, you're official.
Thank you.
on our 8th day. All right, so now we need to swear in our newly elected council members, and since everyone here was up for election, even though you're returning council members, you still have to take the oath of office. Sans Mr. Tipton, after about 2 minutes, you won't be Councilmember Tipton anymore.
Yeah.
And also our treasurer. So, Janice, if you would do, I guess we can just do it, all the council members can do it together, and then we'll do the treasurer on a pedestal. So, you need to stand up too.
Is this the right side?
I think so, yeah.
Am I doing one at a time?
No, we'll just do it all together.
Yeah, do them all.
Okay.
So say, I state your name, and then we'll all say, I state our names.
I better leave my glasses on then. Okay, so I
I
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I
And I will
will
support
support the Constitution of the
the
United
United
States
States
and laws of the State of Washington
and laws of the State of Washington
and all local ordinances,
and
and all
all
local
local ordinances,
ordinances,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and perform and discharge the duties of the office of
and
perform and discharge the duties of the office of
council member,
city
council
council
member,
member
according to the law and the best of my ability.
according to the law,
and
best
to
of
the
my
best of my
ability.
ability.
Great, that's it.
Welcome, council members.
All right.
Thank you.
We have one more for our treasurer.
I
I, Michael Cronrad,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of
and
Washington
the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and all local ordinances,
and all local ordinances.
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform
And I will faithfully and impartially perform
and discharge the duties of the office of treasurer
and discharge the duties of the office of treasurer
according to the law and the best of my ability.
according to the law and the best of my ability.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So now comes the fun part. As you all know,
Bye-bye.
we,
Thanks, Tim.
through two special filing periods, we did not have any candidates for the mayor, so there was no mayor elected. According to Lincoln County auditors, we now have 3 months to appoint a mayor. And if we do not appoint a mayor, then that gets turned over to the county commissioners and they will appoint a mayor for us. I've talked to the county commissioners and told them our situation. They're well aware of that it's not like we're holding back on anybody, that we've been sandbagging it, so they don't know who they would appoint either if no one steps forward. So in talking to Shelley Johnston, she says typically you appoint a mayor from the current council. So I don't know, I've talked to most council members. I don't know if there's any council member that is interested in being appointed the mayor for it's a 2-year period, because because in 2 years, there'll be a special election for the remaining unfulfilled term. So it's a 2-year appointment. And we don't have to decide tonight. If no council member is interested at this time, then we'll go to the next line. But, so, I don't know if any council member wants to nominate another council member, they can decline it, or if not, they want to self-nominate, they can do that too.
And we have to nominate a mayor pro tem too, don't we? That's a council issue.
The council will not appoint, we'll make from the sitting council. I'll also say, if we don't appoint a mayor tonight, we would still need to appoint a mayor pro tem to be the acting mayor until the council appoints a mayor. The mayor pro tem will still be a council member and have voting privileges and rights as a council member, but will also be acting mayor. So we don't have to appoint a mayor tonight, and technically we don't have to appoint it from our council if there's a citizen. So if we want to advertise in a paper for any Harrington citizens, city limits, there's 295 registered voters. So if we don't do that tonight, then we would still have to appoint a mayor pro tem who would then be the acting mayor until we appoint a mayor.
Do that tonight.
We do have to appoint a pro tem tonight if we don't appoint a mayor. So that there's somebody for the city, like for the clerk and for public works if they have questions, what do I do? Or if there's, some agency or somebody calls and they want to talk to the person in charge.
I appoint Justin Slack. Said you can decline, right?
Yeah, so you pointing me for the mayor?
Correct.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but I gracefully decline. I volunteered for a year and 3 months. A year and 6
Fair
months.
enough.
So, but thank you though for
Good try.
thinking of me. Is there anyone that either wants to nominate anybody else or wants to self-nominate?
For the position of mayor?
Correct. For 2-year position of mayor. $600 a month.
You know.
And a lot of stomach acid.
Again, we don't have to do that tonight. We have 3 months, and we can discuss it later. If we decide not to, if we want to advertise or if we want to.
Yeah, I don't have any nominations.
Okay.
Any more nominations?
Any more?
Anyone else?
Do you want me to nominate you?
No. No, thank you.
Okay.
I wish I had time, actually. I would love to do it, but I don't feel like I could
Okay. So
spend enough time.
then we will table. Is that fair to table the appointment of the mayor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a typo on the next line. So that's tabled. So then we need to appoint a mayor pro tem, not a mayor pro tem mayor. And again, the mayor pro tem is a sitting council member who will remain a council member, but will be acting mayor and have all the authority as the mayor until we either appoint somebody or the county. So it could be up to I don't know, say 6 months. I don't know how long the county has, but it could be up to at least 3 months.
I nominate Sherry McClellan for the position of mayor pro tem.
Okay. Is that something you're willing to accept?
Yes.
Okay. Any other
For
nominations?
the rest of you, I said yes.
Any other?
Any competitors?
All right. Then for, I guess, so that's a nomination for, let's see, Sherry McClellan nominated by Peter, so that's a motion. Then I'll second it by Slack. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstain?
Abstain.
You abstained? Okay, so 301. No, yeah, 301. Okay. So Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I don't know if you want to take over the rest of the meeting, if you're prepared to, or if you want,
I'm fine with you finishing it.
okay. All right, we have
Thank you.
council, yeah. Just in time.
Guess
There's
what we
Shank.
did in your absence?
Do I want to know?
Okay, so Sherry is, so what you just, biggest stuff you missed was, we tabled the appointment of the mayor,
Okay.
which is about halfway down. And so we have 3 months to do that.
Okay.
And then we appointed, Peter nominated Councilmember McClellan to be the mayor pro tem, who will remain an active council member, but will be the acting mayor
Okay.
going forward. And I seconded it, and we voted 3-0, and she abstained. So that's where we're at now.
All right.
So now, we're down to council committee selections. This was just something we started, we finally got going last year. I've put, in our packets, the 2019 committees that we had. One, I guess we need to decide if we want to continue having committees. We thought that was a good idea. If we do want to have those committees, do we want to, is there interest somewhere else, or where's the best strengths for each council member to be on?
I like having the committees. I think it works well. I think just getting started, each committee didn't do a whole lot, but we can keep building on that.
It was helpful for our budget.
Yeah,
I'll tell you from
absolutely.
the budget committee that Tim and Sherry were on with me is,
I think we could do a lot with these going forward. I think we could keep building and be able to accomplish quite a bit just in these small committees that maybe wouldn't put so much burden on the mayor or whoever it might put a burden on. And if they're willing to take on projects or just anything that's asked of that committee, I think we should go forward with having them.
I have a question here.
There used to be a cemetery committee. Is that something?
there is a
Park and
Park and
cemetery.
cemetery. Did you see?
Well,
Number 4.
I
What do you ask for? I guess what's your,
didn't really, I had asked Bunny and she said that we didn't have one anymore, so.
there might have, so as a council committee, we created one last year. There might have been a different formal committee in previous years.
Just the cemetery.
Um, But I don't know, it wasn't since my time here, so I don't know. Last year, the cemetery, Park and Cemetery, I know there was a couple special projects that Levi and Tim worked on. One was getting MKB lawn care, like interviewing those people and doing that, as well as looking at the reader boards, different things, so that.
And oversees like the budget part of it too?
We did not do that. This was like special projects
Okay.
type of things. So nothing on
Nothing to do with the ordinance for the budget type stuff?
no. In my time as on my 4 years being on the council and as mayor, that wasn't anything that was
There's
ever.
an ordinance regarding a cemetery committee that oversees the funding that comes in, and that's what she said that was no longer there, so I was wondering if that would ever go back into effect.
Okay.
We probably have to research it to know why it was I'll say disbanded, but that's the right word for it. I don't know.
If not, I can rewrite the ordinance so that we're not out of date, but if we want it back into effect, we need to look at that probably.
I would probably suggest that at the next meeting, we get that ordinance out. I mean, you send it.
I
You send
have
out.
it on-
No, but I mean, you send it
yeah.
out with our council packets.
Okay.
Then we look at it and then see if it either fits into this purview
Okay.
or if it needs to be a different purview, and if there's,
Okay.
there used to also be a finance committee that was, or an investment committee, which was the treasurer. At the time, it was Paul Gillen as the mayor, Bunny, and I believe the treasurer, and if it might have been Mary Alice or Tara, I don't know, but it might have been Mary Alice, so it could have been up to 10 years ago. That hasn't happened for a long time. There's also a different committee for like rabid dogs or something, so it doesn't exist,
Right,
and
okay.
that's kind of like a ad hoc thing. So there's probably a lot of those things you're going to find
Okay.
that I think I would recommend bringing them up
Okay.
probably
As
with
they come.
and the time being, the mayor pro tem,
I think it's just smart to have that committee still, to have people from the community, and, you know, I wouldn't mind being one of the people on there since I do the transfers and stuff, so I can, you know, show them what I do with that money. You know.
yeah, I think we probably, I'm not familiar with the ordinance. I don't know if you two are both longer than I am, and they haven't been here as long as me, so I know they haven't seen it, unless unofficially, but do you guys,
It's before my,
do you remember any kind of committee for the cemetery?
I don't.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's
Interesting.
there's never been one, as far as I know.
38 years. So,
I'll bring
So-
it out.
dust it
so,
off and take a look at it.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Is everyone comfortable with the committees they were on last year? Want to continue with those? And I can fill in where Tim was at, or does somebody didn't like the committee person they were appointed to, you know, someone didn't like working with Nathan, so they want to switch it up?
What does
Possibility.
administration do? My name's on it.
We
Yeah,
haven't
that-
really done anything for administration.
That was like-
I had that question mid-year.
That was about like ordinances, and things that are just dealt with, I think, City Hall, stuff that comes up that don't fall under Public Works or Community Relations. Going through our ordinances, if that's a project we want to do,
Yeah.
how to do those.
I think maybe Janice could even put some stuff on that, you know, periodically. If it's something that doesn't have to be done, this is my thought at least, if it's something that doesn't have to be done right away, but maybe you just, I don't want to do that, or I can't do that right now, maybe that's something that when we pop in we could do. I don't know.
So is everyone okay with the committees they were on? And
Yes.
we'll just plan on doing it, and I'll swap out my name.
Are you good with filling in
Yeah.
just where Tim is?
Yeah, the budget and the park and cemetery.
You fine working with me, Nathan?
I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
Keep it to yourself if you're not. It's-
All right. So we'll keep those with those changes. All right. Also in our packets here, next on our list here is our annual this is the renewal of the 2020 agreement with OCTN, which is the Okanagan County Transportation Network. They're the ones that handle the senior meals, or administer it, I guess. So we have an annual lease that we do for the days that they're over at the City Hall, and it's the same, as far as I could tell, it was the same exact lease as last year, except they had different dates. And so I don't know if we're, if there's any issues with going forward with them.
Have you, as mayor, seen anything that would not want to make you go forward with this now being a council member? Like, was there any
No,
cons to it?
Bunny told me that we stay away from it. So all we do is provide the space for them,
Space.
because there's also Mid-County Seniors, which is the people that local Harrington people that actually interact with those people. So all we do is provide the space as the city at this reduced rate, or subsidized rate, so that we can have senior meals for our citizens.
All right.
We don't have anything else. So there was some color last year, and Bunny just told me she's like, we just stay over here on this
Fair
side of
enough.
the street.
Okay.
But I know there's some people here that are involved in senior meals, and again, this is for the I mean, there's other issues I'm aware of, but obviously I would say you're probably in favor of being able to have the senior meals location at a subsidized rate. Is that still fair? I mean, you guys are, okay. So, and this is,
Is this just a continuation of the one we have?
yeah, it's exact.
Boilerplate.
It's
It
boilerplate
is.
except
It
for the
is.
date, yeah, just basically,
It's exactly what we had last year.
and this would run, it's year to year, we do it every year. And obviously it's happened a few times already this year, and we've just, until we haven't signed, it says January 1st, but, I know, again, I think it's, obviously year to year is fine. There's been discussions on different things in I know last year there was doing different things, and Mid-County Seniors didn't come to us to do that at this point, so I think at least to have the opportunity to offer senior meals over across the street, I would say that,
You just need a motion.
yes.
Okay.
Motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept the new rental agreement for 2020 with Okanagan County Transportation and Nutrition.
Motion by Councilmember Shank,
Second.
second by Davenport. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstain. All right, passes 4-0. Thank you. All right,
There's
next.
5 of us now.
Oh, 5, sorry. Thank you.
No, it's 4.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There's 5.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're not the mayor anymore.
I'm just a council
He's just a
member.
councilman.
I'm just a council member that's running this meeting for the rest
Okay.
of it. I get to make decisions.
Yay! You get to vote.
All right, so the next item here is the city's fine to the Attorney's General Office. So I'll probably start this, and Peter, you can fill in. As you all know, we paid it at the end of last year. Then Clerk Bunny Haugen told me that we had the money in the budget or in our coffers in 2019 to pay the $5,000 fine. And instead of budgeting for that fine in 2020. So we paid it. That was on the last day of the year. I've heard, not directly through Councilmember Davenport, but I believe it's through, the gist of it was what are some of our options? Like, is there is there any litigation we can take against our contract operator? Is that one of them? That's one of the options?
One of the options. There are many options.
Okay, I'll start with that one though, and then I'll let you pick up from the rest. So in that letter that we got, I think there was 9 or 10 infractions. So 5 of those happened in 2018 before I was the mayor, in that short window of period after we signed the agreement. And then 3 of those issues happened last year that we did not submit our O&M operator and operations and maintenance manual logbooks. So that's the city employee. And then one of the issues was we didn't file our DMR on time, which through our contract is what our person has done. So that one person, our contract operator, was responsible for one of the 9, or I think it's 9 infractions. If you say she's part, I'd say she's half responsible for the one of 9. So from a litigation standpoint, we have 4 or 5 of those happened prior to that, even that person. 3 of them happened with the city employee, and 3.5 and a half happened with our contractor. So I don't know that it's worth
There's
it.
no warrant, no ground to litigate anything with the contract.
The thing that this came up last year too, and it's come up twice actually with Kim Prisok, who's Department of Ecology. They do not like our contract. They say our contract with our operator is very weak. They suggested that we try to update that. That was signed before my time as the mayor. So that's something that if we want to look at doing to prevent this happening going forward, we can look at that contract and how to make it better and more teeth, I guess. If who's at fault? Because right now Kim even said, Kim Prisok, the ecology person, said your contract is real loose. It doesn't say who's responsible for who. It just says that we're going to have a person basically stamp something and pay them money. And so they don't like the contract. They told us, hey, it's a really weak contract. You have no there's a lot of wiggle room. So if that's something we want to do going forward, we can. But I don't know, from that half of 9 infractions, that's worth it to go. This is mine, right? Sorry.
That's fine.
If we want to go after her for that, obviously it's a precarious situation where we have to be careful, because if we piss her off, she's going to leave, and then we have to.
We lose our.
We lose the stamp that we have, and there's not that many people out there that are doing what she's doing. So that's the first part. I know that's one option that I wanted to, and I think you had more options, but so I'll let you
What I'd like to see generated is a timeline of all the events that have occurred that are pertinent to this issue. One of the things that we're all encouraged to do is take courses and seminars through AWC. And one of the issues they always bring up is the potential for personal liability of city elected officials and employees. And I feel very uncomfortable in shoving a $5,000 fine onto the backs of the taxpayers and citizens of this city who had no role in this whatsoever. It is not they who are responsible, it is we. And I think we should draw up a list of the people who participated in this and look at a timeline and decide where liability lies. And Sherry and I discussed this recently, and one of the things I would like to see us do is go to AWC and find out if they've presided over similar situations and what they might recommend. But it's in my opinion, it's altogether inappropriate to put the burden of this fine on the backs of the taxpayers when they had no role in it whatsoever.
In your opinion, do you have an opinion on who the liability falls on at this
Shared
point?
responsibility. Ultimately, it falls to all of us. Happened on our watch. But this is why I'd like to see a very detailed timeline that lists when people were in office, when the decisions were made, when the agreements were made, when the agreement was signed with the Department of Ecology, when we paid a fine, the first fine, wasn't it $1,000?
Yeah, the original fine was 10,000, and then they reduced it to 6,000, which we paid 1,000, and we had 2 years probation. We stayed out of trouble for 2 years. They would stay the extra 5,000. But because from May of 18 when that agreement was signed until September of 19, we had 9 violations of that agreement.
When was the first violation?
May of 2018, a week after, 4 days after the agreement was signed. We had 4 days to give them something that we did not produce.
I seem to recall a statement at a prior meeting that all of the DMRs had been entered on time, but that's not the case, is it?
Since Casey took over, they had been entered except for that last one that we got in trouble for.
So the DMRs, so the first violation, the agreement, there's a letter, and we can have the timeline. They laid it out for us but the agreement was signed, and I don't the exact date, but say May 25th or 26th of 2018. They gave us until May 31st of 2018 to produce a O&M logbook entry. We never did. And then...
That was under Dylan's...
Correct.
He resigned on the 30th of June.
And that was my responsibility.
Pardon?
And that was my responsibility. But I didn't know I had to do it until last year.
But let me finish though,
Okay.
for just the timeline. So when I talked to the guy on the phone, I said, we have one deal. And he said, no, there's 9. I said, what are you talking about? So one of them was then, and then there was, I think, a June, July, and August of 18 DMR issue. And then we had...
Were they not entered?
Correct.
They were not entered.
Because we ended up having to go back maybe later, but yes. I'll get the letter to confirm it, but
Yeah.
And then in February of 19, June of 19, August of 19, and maybe October, we did not submit O&M manual logbooks with our DMR. And then the September 19 DMR was not filed on time because they tried to file early, but there was an issue, and so but then our contractor was going to be out of town until after the 15th deadline, so it got filed by our contractor when she returned. though we could have technically filed it before the 15th, the deadline. So that's why, and I can get the council, I mean, I can, and we can look at that, but that's what I'm saying. So 4 of those happened before, that none of, the person that was ultimately responsible is not sitting here at this table. So, and it was a prior mayor. I don't
And
know
none
how
of us
you,
were privy to it at the time.
correct.
If I recall, we had no idea.
Correct, and that's what the prior clerk said too, was I wasn't aware, because they were dealing directly one-on-one. I wasn't privy to that either, but that's what the prior,
Who's dealing one-on-one
Dylan,
with?
ecology.
Okay.
Because if you recall, Paul, prior to Dylan, Paul did a lot of that reporting. And then Dylan took that on, but that's when we had 15 months of no DMRs. That's what the initial fine started, because we didn't file them. So that's what the original fine happened, and then we had a 2-year probation period, but in a year and a half, we had 9 violations in that time. So I can make that for you. That's what I mean. So then ultimately, in 19, when we didn't file the O&M, that, I mean, I would say the count. I didn't know that we didn't file it. As the mayor, the council members. Then, if I didn't know, I'm pretty sure the council members weren't aware of it. So then that's on our.
We never discussed it.
Correct.
So how do you take that falls on us then? If you just admitted that you didn't even know about it, how? I mean, I agree with what you're saying in the fact that that is part of our responsibility. But how can you take care of something that you're not even aware of?
I didn't know about it, but it happened on our watch. That's all we need to know.
Well, it was my responsibility, and I didn't even know I had to do it.
But you just said you knew of it last year, correct?
Yeah.
So why did we miss ones this year? Other than the one that Casey messed up.
This year.
We didn't?
In 19 we had
This was
those.
in 18.
But in 19 we had 3 O&M
Okay, the-
logbooks.
Then when they finalized the O&M manual in 19 was when I found out that I was supposed to be doing a logbook. And I started right then.
Okay.
That's the only time I ever knew we had to do one. Now, this agreement Dylan made with the Department of Ecology on his own, you guys never had a word or never had a say in it. I never had a say in it. You know, that's not fair to, you know, anybody. You guys, me,
The other thing I can liken it to, maybe, is if we, 2 years ago, we backed into a city light pole. There's an accident. I mean, accidents happen.
Vista light bulb.
Vista light pole. It costs a lot of money because it's a Vista. So we had to pay for that. I mean, there was insurance covered it, but we probably also had a deductible to pay. Well, who paid for that? The citizens, out of our budget, that the city paid for it, which represents our citizens' dollars. It represents the money we get from the state, from different agencies, whatever we get, somewhere in our budget, it came out of that. So at the same time, if it's an accident, I can see, I might feel better that it's in our budget. Obviously, if it's willful and we know and we're not doing anything, then yeah, that's, that shouldn't be on the citizens, that should be, but I would say, and is the mayor, I guess I should have known that I wasn't notified that we didn't have any DMRs not filed, or not the DMRs, the O&M manual, but that I made it clear with ecology that I wasn't, they didn't tell me, but that I was not an operator, is the mayor. So to me, that would fall to 2 people, or 3, not even, well, 2. It would be they would have notified Scott and or Casey. And I wasn't privy to those emails or those notifications if they did happen. So I don't think it's fair for you to blame yourself if you didn't know about it. The blame would then be put on the people inside that run the city hall, I guess. But then, I think now we're
up to date now.
We're real aware of it. Everyone, and I think that's why ecology they tried to help us. I mean, they lowered the bar. Like here's the normal bar for Harrington. Everyone else's bar's here. They even lowered it down to here so that we could, pass. It generates snorts. But I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, and so again, talking and consulting with the former clerk, we didn't have an option of we could appeal. But the grounds that we were going to appeal on, we didn't do it. We had 9 violations that we didn't, that's the fact, that we didn't do it. So the ground of that, and they already gave us a break last time, and talking to Casey, she's like, well, how long are we on probation? I was like, well, for 2 years, and we're only 18 months into it, or not even 15 months or whatever. So we still have till May of this year for that 2 years. Well, now the fine's paid. I guess that we had to pay the full deal, so, I mean, I don't know, but, so, I mean, I think going forward, obviously,
We need to not do that any.
What's the name of our level 2 inspector? Again, Casey?
Casey.
What's her last name?
Manji.
Manji.
So the other thing with her, right, this is where it gets incestuous. She's also AAA Labs, who does all of our lab testing. So that's why I said earlier, it's precarious. We piss her off with that. Do we one, she doesn't...
Go find yourself another lab.
Right, I don't know how many of those, I mean, everyone,
Plenty
Peter...
of labs around.
Okay, but I mean, Peter, your research that you went and did, every single person I think you talked to here goes to AAA Labs. So...
No, they're Cascade Analytics.
Oh, okay,
in
there's another one, in Wenatchee, okay.
In Wenatchee,
But,
yeah.
again, that's a bridge we have to cross if we want to, but from my consultation with the former clerk, the best option that we had, since we had money in our budget, or money left over in 2019, and it occurred in 19, instead of trying to budget it for 2020, she and I made that decision to pay it, because we had the dollars, and
Just get it done.
put that behind us so we could start fresh with ecology and not have that worry, that hanging over us. So that's why it was done that way.
The one thing I'm most uncomfortable with is shoving this fine onto the backs of the taxpayers. And one of the things I would propose is we go to AWC, we present a timeline to them and show them what we've done, what's taken place, and see if they have any ideas. There may even be an insurance policy for
negligence?
negligence, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I mean,
I would propose
I
several
just think
people
part of
do
it is-
since
yeah, no, I think-
all of us potentially are culpable.
I disagree with that.
Pardon?
I wholeheartedly disagree that we're all culpable for that.
Well, we're more culpable than the innocent taxpayer is. We sat
Correct.
at this table while it happened. Nobody was sufficiently well-informed to even ask the question. I accept that point. But we are hired by the citizens and the taxpayers and the voters to see to it that these things don't happen. They're less culpable than we are.
I'd agree with that. So my one question about this, just about the money part of it, if we went and exhausted all these things that I agree that maybe we should do and try to see if we can still work at this somehow to not have to pay it. But if it comes down to it and there's either you have to pay this fine or you don't have to pay this fine, and they decide that you do have to pay this fine, how do you propose to pay it then?
As an individual, you mean, the fine's been paid.
Correct. So
What
what are
we're
you
talking about is compensation of the city and the
Reimbursing
taxpayers of
the city, right?
yeah,
And
so...
that's called personal responsibility.
So what Nathan, I think, is saying is if we go and AWC says, nope, there's no insurance, the city's responsible, do we, what do we do then? What's the,
The question is whether culpability extends beyond the city to the elected officials of the city. We haven't established that. It's a possibility. This is why I think we ought to go to AWC and find out whether they've ever seen such a situation before to get more information. And hand in hand with that is we need something to take to them that shows them in detail what has taken place. When elections occurred, when officials resigned, when officials were appointed?
So we have
I
the
have-
letter, we have the letter from Ecology that has their issue, their instances, and we can go back and look at the minutes for each of the meetings beginning at that period of time, and then say, here's what was presented to the council. Here, you know, if there was anything on that topic was presented, if so, what it was. Here's when people resigned. Here's when people were appointed. Here's when we did our O&M manual.
I recommend that the administration committee work on this and present us next month with their report.
Well, I think that's a good recommendation. What the administration committee would like in that instance is a detailed timeline.
No, that's your job to do.
Well,
Nathan
all we
and
can do is
Nathan
go to,
Peter are on administration.
Yes,
Perfect.
sorry, Nathan.
Well, that letter, and I don't know if I sent that email out that I had, but because they sent me the email that actually came to the city, it came to Scott, it came to Casey, it went to a lot of people. It didn't come to me directly. I think it came to, because I got it
are you
afterwards.
talking about this one?
Yes.
Notice of penalty?
Let me see that.
That's the one that
Yes.
was handed out at
The last meeting, yes. Yes. So this was emailed to all these people. Yeah, and so Scott and Casey from here, it came to the city, and it is addressed to me. It came to the city when I was not here. So, and then Sherry's the one that emailed me or texted me one day and said, this came today. So,
So I
What's
would
the
like to
RO?
close the discussion on this for this month and ask the committee to do their job and then come back to us next month with your findings.
We can
feel this
table
is
it.
something-
A month may not be enough, but we'll
at
try.
least start it.
We can check back
Start
with
it.
you in a month and see how you're doing.
Justin is being dealt with some of the stuff. Do you think that we are able to talk to these people and get this information? And I mean, it's not something that a mayor has to do.
No,
Where
so,
an elected official will be okay to
yeah.
get information and
Well, so AWC or Janice any of us can call AWC. They're our insurance provider.
right.
So there's two places, MRSC, which is the Municipal Research.
Right.
They might, which we also have a membership with them. They could maybe point us, but AWC is our insurance provider, so they would be able to.
But like ecology, if we need to talk to Department of Ecology, can Peter and myself
Oh yeah,
call
so
and get information from them? Okay,
All this stuff is a matter of public record.
perfect.
and Kim Prisak is our manager,
Right.
and as well as Rob Burchart, who's on here. He's the guy that I talked to.
Okay.
Art Jenkins is the area manager, and this other lady on here is the regional manager. I didn't talk to her this time.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure
It's in the
that
last meeting's minutes, but
we didn't call and they said no, we're not going to talk to you.
yeah, no, Rob Burchart and Rob wants to come back out and talk to us as a council because he's like the compliance like manager. And he came out and met with myself and Scott and Andy Tom with Kim Prisaka here. Kim came out and talked to us last year. Myself, Bunny, Scott, Andy Tom, Andy O'Neill's another person who's who works there. So these people are very, and I can get with you after the meeting to tell you who.
Yeah, I
exactly-
don't think I have a copy of that, so I need to get it. I
Okay.
need to get a copy.
That's it. That was at their last regular meeting that
Right.
you weren't at. So
Okay.
So when did you say they were out, Kim Prisock and then Tom and all of them were out here?
well, they were.
18 or 19?
I'd have to look.
May of 19, right?
That was the date for what, Scott?
The date that you said Ecology and them guys were here, I think it was May of 19.
April 22nd and July 10th. So they were out here twice.
The first time was when I found out that I had to produce logbooks and put them with the DMR.
And I think there was two instances after that, June and August, that we did not do it. After,
So they're in my book, and I can,
sure, but they, again, I don't know who they told, but like, again, these guys, they gave you enough rope to hang yourself. They told us we were supposed to do it, we didn't do it, they're not gonna call us every month and say you didn't do it. How come? Because they thought we should have known that we should have did it. So, okay, so I'll get with you guys at different points to work on that, or to give you information that I have and help with that.
That'd be a help.
Yeah.
You have a lot of information. There's several people that have a lot of information that's gonna be crucially important to this.
And I think talking to Bunny, I mean, Bunny would probably be wide open to talking to us too. I mean, she knew most, I mean, she kind of say a pulse, but she more so just because she dealt with things here. Even back in May of 18, she was here by herself many times.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Okay.
at her desk. So, okay. Next on our list is the update on the sewer sample delivery process. And Peter mailed us all out something this afternoon, and then we have a copy here that was printed. So take it away, Councilmember Davenport.
I'm looking for my copy.
I'll give you.
Thank you. For the last year or so, we've talked about streamlining our delivery of water samples to the laboratory, AAA, and to Department of Health up in Davenport. And I'm probably the one who's been squawking about this loudest, because I hate to see Scott's time squandered in doing nothing but serving as a taxi service. And what I did on Monday and Tuesday of this week, I called maintenance personnel in Elmira, Davenport, Odessa, Reardon, and Sprague in alphabetical order, and talked to their maintenance supervisors or maintenance personnel to find out how they conveyed their water samples to their respective laboratories. And there are about 5 or 6 laboratories that are involved in these 5 cities' analyses. In any event, the concluding remarks, and we can make copies of this available to members of the public if they'd like to see it as well. I come up with 2 observations. Number 1, it appears to me, based on what the information I've collected, that there's very little we can gain by trying to work in conjunction, in concert with other cities. They already have been down this road and they have pretty good systems. In fact, in the case of Odessa, for example, their samples are hand delivered to, or at least their drinking water samples are delivered to the Department of Health laboratories up in Davenport. Can't improve on that. They're taken, given to the employee, and he conveys them directly within half an hour or so.
This says here Lincoln County employee, so does a Lincoln County, and for the Odessa one, does a Lincoln County employee come get it from them?
No, I probably shouldn't reveal who that employee is.
Okay.
But, because I'm not authorized to do so, but it's an informal arrangement. But
Okay.
they just take the drinking water samples, give it to a Lincoln County employee, and he or she conveys them directly to the laboratories in Davenport.
Okay.
The conclusions are probably the most important part of this, although Scott might like to have, he probably knows these people already, but he might like to have a list, we'll give you a list. The second observation or conclusion I make is, if we want to save Scott's time and prevent his having to spend hours on the road getting water samples to their respective laboratories for analysis, is we ought to look into what's already been proposed a number of times, and that is having UPS or FedEx pick them up and deliver them. It's only about 10 or 12 bucks from here to Cheney, and that's cheaper in terms of time and treasury than what we're currently spending. So I invite you to read this, and if you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to contact me.
I have a question for Scotty. If Davenport has a lab, Why,
They have a health department lab and
Okay.
they test our bacteria samples only.
oh, okay,
Once
In
a
the
month
drinking
I have-
water.
Drinking water. Once a month I deliver a sample over there.
okay.
And there's, Anatech Labs does the rest of our drinking water samples in Spokane. They're down on Spray. AAA does our wastewater in Cheney. Now, I dealt for 2 days with United Parcel Service, and I got 3 different speaking people. And I think I got an account set up that we can actually have it picked up here for 3 or 4 of the weeks. One, I have to still deliver over there because I gotta take all my DMR paperwork, all my logbook copies, and the flow data for the month, previous month. I gotta deliver that,
Delivered to the lab.
yes, to Casey so she can generate the DMR. So I can save us 3 or 4
One trip,
trips a
yeah.
month by doing that. That's if I got it set up, I'm not kidding. I dealt with 3 different countries, talking to UPS.
The other thing on this is, so Scott says he takes our DMR stuff there. Ecology would prefer, because we have a contract with a second level 2 person, that person is here. They like him here weekly, and we have it set up to pay for that, but we don't pay for that. We pay less than that.
Right.
And so that might be that we renegotiate our contract to have the person come here on site, like Ecology wants us to do. And then they could also potentially that month, that week, take the sample back. So maybe we ship it 3 times because Scott's doing that work now, taking all that paperwork, but Ecology says your permit says you're going to have that person here basically all the time, which our agreement then is basically they'll be here, sometime. And really, Casey hasn't been here. She's only come when she knew Ecology was coming. I mean, for the meetings. And that's what our agreement is. That's why we only pay $600 a month, not $1,200 a month that we have budgeted, because she's supposed to be here more. And that's what Ecology wants us to fix. They want us to tighten up our contract, and maybe if and when we do that, we can. Some of that could be into this as well. But the challenge with Casey is the contract operator for about 5 of these cities, or some of these cities and other places, and she runs a lab. So that's why Casey says, I prefer not to come out there. I won't charge you to come out there. How about I don't come out there? And we say, what other options do we have? Okay. So I said earlier, incestuous. It's very incestuous. And not a bad way, but there's just a lot going on there that we have to, we might work it out to where she does come out here once a month. And that might alleviate that once, and then we do that. But, so, anyway, I think it's about, I want to say, on average, the numbers that I would see, like on the time cards, some 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, so average 3.5 hours a week is what this time by itself is, let alone cost of fuel. I think that truck is about 10 gallons to the mile.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, not very good. It costs us a lot of money just in fuel. That's why we have a fuel card for Spokane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can't make it all the way there and back.
They can't, I don't think. And then obviously wear and tear on our vehicle. So
And Scotty's time away from the city.
that's why I said, right, 3.5 hours
Yeah.
of that, but did not being here. So, so we can, if that's a public works thing, that falls under the public
That's what I
works
was thinking.
committee. If the council would like the public works committee to look at that and see what some of our options are, work with Scott and work with the acting mayor. I think that works.
Yeah.
Does that work for everyone else? Peter, thank you for
Good.
doing all
Yeah.
this. That was obviously that's a lot of work.
Not too much, but
trying to track all those people down, and it just, I've done it. I mean, I know. Okay. Next on our list here is, Scott is up, kind of for our plan. Scott and I talked last week about trying to get an outline. The council, we talked about this at our last meeting, about a plan for Public Works in 2020, how we want to, especially knowing that I told Scott, I kind of knew ahead of time we probably weren't going to have a mayor at this meeting, like an appointed mayor, so he has to be more self-directed and kind of what he sees, so I'll let you take it away, Scott.
I don't know what to say. I just, when Bunny was here, you know, I worked for Bunny. You know, Janice calls the shots a lot of times, and I work for her too. I work for the mayor. You know, I work for the city council. There's a lot of stuff I want to do next year, and maybe we can get it done, maybe we can't, I don't know. I want to finish up 5th Street, fix all the patches and stuff in the first thing this spring, and get all the patching done. There's one of the things I want to do.
If we see stuff as a council, I mean, it's known that we don't necessarily need to directly work with you, or I mean, direct you. We can't do that. It's the best way, knowing that we may not or will not have a mayor that may see those things that we can relate that to, is the best way to go through Janice and just have her tell you. I mean, it's something we're walking around.
Call me direct on the cell phone, and then it'll just go on the list, and we'll get her done.
And then those, I mean, if we come in with 10 things, those will have to be prioritized by you then. You know, if, say there's 10 things that get called in a month, and 5 of them are just from 5 things that you have, and then 5 things come from the council, you'll just go through those 10,
Yeah.
and you'll have to go through that yourself and prioritize them.
I think
We
too,
need all the other stuff, so.
prior to, and Scott could attest to this more than I could, but my assumption is when Paul Gillen was the mayor, Paul managed that process with Scott.
Right.
And directed it. So when Scott says that he works for Bunny or Janice, it's because that's the person who's here all the time that gets those phone calls or gets those stop-ins or those complaints. The face of the city is the person sitting there. So that's how Scott hears it. Bunny, when I worked with Bunny and Scott with this, a lot of times those things would come in and Bunny'd say, okay, I got 4 complaints today or 4 complaints this week. How do you want to do this? Like, what's most important? Because I think the challenging thing is if you got 10 complaints or if 10 people called you and then 3 people called Levi, 3 called Peter and myself, how does Scott know how to prioritize that? That's why we need an acting mayor. So my suggestion would be that for the meantime, it has to run through Sherry until we have a mayor, to have her do the best she can to say, because if you get a water leak, does that take priority over a blinking light light bulb? The person that lives next to that might be no. the light bulb that flashes all the time, they'd be like, I want that fixed. But we have a 20 gallon a minute water leak somewhere else that's causing big problems.
Yeah.
Somebody has to make that decision, and I think it's probably we had to have a point person in the city to be able to hold somebody, accountability. Like says, hey, why did you do this? And you say, well, I weighed 20 gallons a minute. And I talked to Scott, and we thought this was the best. So that's my suggestion, because we can overwhelm. I mean, Scott, I've talked to Scott before. I said, do you want 5 different bosses? I mean, he doesn't.
No.
He doesn't really want it. It's not.
No, I don't think it's necessary. It shouldn't be that. That's kind of.
But
part
our
of what I
current
was getting
situation
at.
is we don't have. You're saying that because we don't have a mayor, but I think we do have an acting mayor,
Okay.
and Councilmember McClellan is a pro tem. So, clerk.
I know throughout the day too that I call Scott quite a bit. I pull him off if he's doing a job that he can get away from, and there's things that I don't know, like the garbage thing today. There's addresses that I don't know where people live. I mean, he was in here for probably half hour or so, 45 minutes answering questions for Casey. So throughout the day on a busy day, I can. So I just had to throw that in there too, that Monday through Friday, I am calling him off of his normal.
Well, sure, no, if somebody
routine.
calls with a garbage thing, they don't have, they got their garbage missed or something, I
He
mean,
wants it, somebody wants a dumpster or a
right.
different size
And some of those things, that's
container.
where we need help though, of how to prioritize those, because
Right.
Scott might say, man, this guy's yelling at me because he wants a dumpster, but I got a 20-gallon-a-minute water leak over here.
And then that's when I explain to those people, well, we've got a water leak. We'll get to it as soon as we
Right.
can. But
And that's what Bunny did for me, and I know, and again, Paul was here a lot more, so Paul, what I know of was, I mean, he managed that, he was, and we talked about actively managing, so, but that's where the next mayor has to be more of an active manager, like we've had it in the past. The last 4 years, I would say, myself included, it wasn't an active manager,
Right.
and that's just a fact. I mean, so we need to make sure going forward that the next mayor knows that we need an active manager to help with things like that. Another thing I think, Scott, you and I talked about, I mean, it's safe to say that Scott would like our help, or the mayor's help, or however we decide, to help him look at the big picture things, to help him prioritize. And that's as a council, we can do that as a committee, what we think is important, I mean, and then that funnels down to the mayor, to their purview to do that. But I think we owe it to him, especially in the situation we're in, and Councilmember McClellan, who now just took the pro tem, it's not fair to her to have to juggle all that, because, I mean, she signed up for it to that sense, but at the same time, I'll say it from experience, it's overwhelming when you walk right into it. You are drinking from a fire hose. So I think without us getting too involved, like butting in, I think though we can, either we see it as a council, or we talk to Scott individually, and we come back as a committee or as a council, we try to help, maybe that's our committee or something too, we have a different committee to help manage that, so it alleviates the burden from the acting mayor and from Scott to help say, what are our priorities?
Well, and I can learn too. It's, there's,
You can learn, I'll tell you, I've said this many times, Paul Gillen was a very smart man, he did it for 35 years, and he knew it really well.
yeah,
Dylan was a smart man, and he tried to learn it in a year, and I did it for a year and a half, and I never learned it.
well, I didn't say I would become an expert.
I know, I'm just saying, it's a lot of work.
I would
Yeah.
encourage both of you guys to, in the spots that can be and that you're willing to dish out and dole out to somebody else, i.e. the people sitting at this table, maybe more so myself than some. I'm not saying that other people don't want to help, but use those. You ask for the help.
Absolutely.
There's so much that goes on that, in a lot of different things that I've noticed that I'm a part of in this city council as well, that, somebody just could have asked and it would have been done. So make sure that you guys reach out and use that. I'm not saying that everyone's going to do everything every time you ask,
Right.
but there's a good chance that maybe say, I can get to that in the next week. So I would encourage both of you guys to do that. Scott, as far as you go,
Paul used to have a running list, and he saw something, and he said, move it up to the top of the list. And that's what we did.
but maybe you guys have something that's fifth on your list doesn't need to be done yesterday. Say, hey, maybe somebody can do this, or
Bump
leave a
that
list
down.
here
Yeah.
for Janice to have it. I think I tried to talk to you about it before. Leave a list here so that I can come in, or anyone can come in and say, hey, what do we need to do? Scott has 3 things. He says, well, he needs to move these bookshelves, and I don't know.
But somebody needs to decide too, whether it's at the council level or at the mayor level, when we get a mayor, is because we have people complaining every day, and it's the same thing of, I brought it up before, like we get these fines. Where's the kind of say accountability to it? Because how do you address them when you say, well, I see this person, we get calls all the time, whether they're true or not, we get calls. I see a person doing laps all the time in a truck, one of our workers. All they do is drive around in a truck. That may be true. That person might have saw them doing that. I don't know. But we don't have a good mechanism right now. We haven't for the last, I'll say, 4 years, including myself as a mayor. We haven't had a good mechanism to deal with that. Mm-hmm. That goes back to being an actively engaged or actively managed person in this. That's why we tried to raise the rate to $600 this year for the mayor, because there is more, we know there's more responsibility. I mean, we saw it. Again, Paul had it down pretty well from 35 years of experience.
Yeah.
So, but because it does suck, and I don't know if you guys get those inquiries. I got them as the mayor and I got them as council member. How do you answer? How do you look the constituent in the face and tell them, you know, I can't answer that question. I don't know. I do feel bad, you know, or we have, you know, this over here is not done, or this over here. What's our, you know, if we get a plan and say, yeah, we have a 3-day, you know, if the light goes out, we want to fix it in a week. Maybe a week is too soon or too long. That's just an example. Or if we have, you know, what's our priority list? Because citizens do have the right to say, when is it going to be fixed? When are we going to do it? Right now, we don't. We have, it's like the whack-a-mole. We have Scott going different directions. You know, so I mean, again, I'll say it is just coming out of that position. I didn't give the time that it takes to actively manage. I didn't have the time to do that. That's not what I didn't come in to do that, and I didn't realize it coming in there that's what it was. I thought it was a well-oiled machine and it just ran. You know, that wasn't necessarily the case either. So that's why.
Well, we're not running amok.
I'll say that's a subjective opinion. I'll just say, because some people think we are running amok, whether that's fair or not. But people are entitled to their opinions, and I mean, we can say as many bad things as we have going. We have a lot of good things going too. Mm-hmm. So I said, I mean, but some people think that we run amok. I mean, and that's where, I mean, but we don't have our expectations. You know, it's like an example would be our light poles right now. What do we, you know, I know one of them, did we get the second one submitted to insurance?
Not yet, no, I'll have to talk to Gary about it.
I mean, so we have to do that second one for insurance. We still have cars up here that we're going to get. Last summer we talked about that we're going to
I
get.
talked to the guy in Ritzville, and he, at this point, he's not real enamored about coming over here.
Is there anyone else? I mean, those are just examples. So
Yeah.
those are the things that we have to deal with that
In a timely fashion.
because again,
Follow them through.
yeah. So
You can't just hold them off.
I have to have somebody come behind.
It can be a personal, private. There's got to be a business. I'll whatever.
Let
We'll
me
do
ask
that later.
Let's not take up the.
cars.
they're junk car. I mean, they're not
I
ours.
know.
Just haul them
That's
off.
fine.
What can you legally do with them?
Get a Hulk slip and have them hauled off.
You don't, if they've got, if they're sitting in the city right away, I don't even need a hoax there.
Okay.
But I gotta get somebody that wants to take a car from here to Ritzville, or wherever he wants to take it, store in his lot, and sell for $2. You don't wanna do it.
Well, how about you just take it and scrap it?
Can we discuss
Drag
this
it down
outside
to
of the
scrap
council
pile
meeting?
and-
But those are examples of things that
Yeah.
Nathan said follow through. We have probably a list of things that we talked about at our council meetings in the last year that we were going to follow up on. And again, people have to live across the street from these or next door or, you know, whatever. They have to drive by it every day and look at it. I mean, so that's something, you know, we can, I think, again, myself included, try to improve upon this next year to try to make that better. So we're not. We have to, I mean, I don't know, but again, that's just going to take some more resources in terms of at least contributions. So, all right. Next on our list is the December payroll inquiry.
Private cars,
So, what I sent you guys an email. According to our policy, it says any unused vacation at the end of the year, at the mayor's discretion, can be paid out at 75%. Last year, when I walked into it, I didn't know anything. I asked Bunny. I said, "What's normally happened?" She said, "It's been." I think I recall her saying it's been paid. There's been times it has been paid, and there's been times it hasn't been paid. And I said, "What did we do last year? We paid it. I paid it." This year, came up. And leading up to the end of the budget session, I was wrongfully told that we were in deficits. You know, we were in the red everywhere. We were over budget on every single thing we're at. And I said, okay, we're not gonna pay, that, one of the reasons was we're not gonna pay for it. We're not gonna do that. We don't have the money. We ended up having the money. That was after that I made the decision. That was part of the decision. Another decision was for the clerk. At the time, her and I agreed that she was gonna take 3 weeks off in a month, in October, so that Janice could trial run it, dry run, and figure out what she needed to learn. And then when Bunny came back, Janice had all these questions and could do it. Bunny only ended up taking 3 days off. So I felt she was supposed to take it off. She decided not to. I can't fix that. I mean, I can't help that she decided not to, didn't want to, couldn't want to, whatever reason. For Scott, he took a week of vacation earlier this year. One of the reasons, Keith was already planning a vacation. Scott didn't tell me that. Scott told me about 3 days before he was going to take a vacation that he was going to be gone and that Keith was going to be here, but he knew that Keith wasn't going to be here, or he forgot that Keith wasn't going to be here. So we ended up having no one here for a week. That really frustrated me because we knew, but we didn't know, but no one told anybody. So we ended up, the citizens got stuck with it. We had a fine for $5,000. We had all these things go wrong. It didn't seem right to me that we were going to pay out that money with all these other things going on. So at the mayor's discretion, per our policy, I made an executive decision that has been made before, I believe, or is led to believe. So I did not decide to pay I didn't decide to pay any remainder balance of what it was, 75%. It was zero. So that's the December payroll issue.
Keith took off without letting me know that he was going to be gone, and he promised me he was going to be here while I was on vacation. Just like tomorrow, I'm going to go on 4 days for vacation through the weekend and whatnot. He promised me he's going to be here.
He isn't here very much. We see when he comes to work and when he goes home. He isn't very much.
Where's the chain of command?
He only works maybe 4
I
hours
mean,
a
where does
day.
the buck stop? With the mayor?
Yes.
So if I wanted vacation, they have to go, hey, I would like to do this, that.
The city employees report to the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is basically almost like unauthorized leave or something?
It just says if you decide not to take your vacation.
No, but I mean, in the case of Keith, just taking off, not telling Scott or anybody, it sounded like.
He's AWOL.
He had a transportation
It'd be leave without
issue.
pay, really, is what it should be.
Or vacation days or sick days, or if those are all expended, then leave without pay. Yes, and that all three of those things happen. So this last year, in 18 it happened several times. So in 19, for Keith, we said, Keith, if you're not going to be here, you need to let Scott and City Hall or myself know. Somebody besides Scott needs to know, because Scott's not always here, and if somebody calls, and Bunny, I mean, really, it was for Bunny to know, because she deals with.
She's a dispatcher, basically.
That's right, and that's yes.
Point of order, this is a personnel matter. Is it appropriate to be talking about it in open session?
That's what Dustin
brought
tried
up
to talk
earlier.
about
It got
earlier.
brought up earlier.
Would bite.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's a policy issue, too.
it is from the council's position. You guys are well aware of it.
Yep.
I mean, you guys now know. I mean, I told you guys before, but it's public. I mean, it is what it is. That was my choice. Our policy that we have in our annual reports says it's his mayor discretion. Like I said, last year I asked, I don't know how many times Scott told me the other day that he can't recall it never happened. I don't know, like I said, I recall talking to Bunny about it last year, saying that it's happened both ways. And last year I chose to do it because I just walked into it. So I didn't have any knowledge. This year, given the situation we were in, given the situation that we'd been in, I made at the mayor's discretion, I made that call, and I talked to both employees after the fact about it, and so if the council, I don't know if the council has any.
What was the amount involved? And
I don't.
I had 100.
That's that. I don't think that's appropriate.
I don't know. I don't know how many hours. I didn't even look. So.
Okay.
I'd like to make a point that it's really hard at times for me to take a vacation.
I'll bet.
I can go home and do stuff in my yard or whatever there, but to go somewhere and do something, there's no way I could take all the vacation time that I'm earning.
So I work for a corporation that says if I don't use it, I lose it. They don't pay me out anytime. And they encourage me to take the vacation that I have every year because it's healthy for human, for yourself. So there's different corporations and different agencies and different entities do different things. Again, I was following a policy that had been set before. I didn't set that policy. I just followed what it had. And last year, again, using Bunny as institutional knowledge, I asked her as the voice of reason, what have we done in the past? Because I had no idea. And she knew. So.
Well, I've been here 38 years.
And what was
if
that?
I didn't use my vacation, I got paid for it. And if I did use it, I used it. And there has been times I've used it. But I've gotten paid for some vacation pretty near every year I've worked here. I'll guarantee next year I'll use my vacation.
All right. So we had some additions. We'll start with Sherry for the mutual aid agreement. So you guys heard mutual aid earlier. Those that were here, Levi didn't, but Ron Milky talked about the fire districts using mutual aid.
Right.
Having agreements with them, other agencies. This came out of the regionalization meetings that Sherry went to. I went to the first one. Scott went to.
Scott went to some.
Nathan went to some.
Yeah.
So this basically is an agreement that the cities in Lincoln County are looking to get into. That basically says that if we have like say a backhoe, and
No, it's a wastewater treatment plant only.
it said equipment in here.
Yeah.
It's water, oh, okay.
Everything, if you want to get involved in it.
So it basically says that we would, if we have a piece of an implement or a piece of equipment or something that another agency might need they don't have, that we would say loan it to them, but we would be compensated for it. Or if we needed something from them, like we wanted to rent a backhoe, we could get a backhoe from Davenport and we would just pay them whatever their prevailing wage, whatever that is. So it's across the board. We have an agreement, I think that with Lincoln County, we have an interlocal agreement with the school. We did that earlier last year. We rented them our Vector truck, and Scott and Keith went up there, and they paid the wages for our employee, and they paid us money for the use of the truck itself, like the wear and tear. So this is very similar to that. It's just with the other cities in Lincoln County. And so we're being asked if we want to participate. They're hoping all the cities in Lincoln County will participate. And there's no cost to participate other than if we decide to use an implement or a machinery or something like that. For
The agreed upon rate that is agreed upon per incident between the two parties.
So it's not like it's a flat, like it's always going to be $5 an hour.
The assisting person or the damaged person. Or,
You actually make more because it's prevailing plus 30%.
yeah, plus 30%.
So really, we would come out.
My
well
only
ahead.
question is our insurance. Say somebody borrowed our backhoe and blew out a line or smashed up somebody's car with it being our equipment, and then
I
they
think our
decided
personnel
not
has
to.
to go
Okay.
with it, doesn't it?
yes, our personnel has to go with it.
Okay.
You would run the backhoe and
All right.
That way there's
That was
I think
gonna be
part
my
of this is
question. They take the equipment and beat the crap out of it and then send it back to us. And
no.
Yeah.
We can't let
Part of this is emergency too, as well. It's for-
Sherry, I
for
think
using-
of worst case scenarios with everything.
Well, no,
so.
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Didn't I read in here somewhere, Sherry, that this is also applies for not only regular work but emergency
Yes,
situations
yes.
as well?
Yes, it does.
I don't remember where I did.
In fact, that's the primary reason it came about.
Right.
What's the benefit of signing this?
Well, that we are part of a cooperative group that will assist each other as need arises, that we have some place to go other than to Kaiser or a Vista maybe, or
private party.
A Vista doesn't apply, but Kaiser, I don't know.
Or like say
Like-
Sunbelt Rentals, if we needed to rent a piece of equipment that instead of driving to Airway Heights, Davenport
Right.
had it, we could get it from Davenport.
And the expertise of the people coming to help because they're in that job themselves.
Or private contractors and private citizens.
Pardon?
Doing business, private people.
In lieu of that though, instead of going, you know, you have a backhoe, so if our backhoe broke, we needed a backhoe, we could call you and you could say yay or nay, but we also have an option besides if no one else, I mean, how many places have it, someone having a backhoe around? I mean, not, you know.
Well, if that needs repair or something, you need like a rental from
The rental costs $1,000 an hour for a piece of machinery, but Davenport ends up and they do all their calculating and it comes out to $550 an hour with a guy. Well, if they got time.
Grab it from Davenport.
You bet.
Yeah.
It could eventually result in a countywide wastewater operator that we could
Yeah.
contract
Right.
with.
That was one of the other main
That's one of
goals,
the
wasn't
goals
it?
that
Yeah.
they're looking at.
Yeah.
Because every city, I know in Lincoln County, and it's actually greater than Lincoln County, is having the same similar, they call it the silver
Issues with
tsunami,
the
with the operators.
level twos.
But also
Yeah.
with equipment. Some places don't have equipment. Elmira, I think, doesn't even have a truck anymore. They have like those little gators because they just drive around town with their gate. I mean, but things, I mean, so it's basically saying, hey, we all don't need backhoes. We all don't need street cleaner, street sweeper. But if we needed one and we could rent it from Davenport for $5.50 an hour instead of $1,000 an hour, then we have that option. We don't have to. We can still do it. If we have a private party, we have, somebody at Citizen has a street sweeper in their garage that they want to rent to, give to us, whatever. But
Or if we need a level 2 to come on site for any reason, we can contact the level 2 on the list and we can ask them to come and pay them to come, but it's going to be probably cheaper than Casey.
Are we required? Is this the entity, the city that is lending something or someone? Are they required to charge
No.
the other entity?
No, that's an agreement you can reach during the incident.
Okay.
We got this just tonight. I'd like to look
I
through it.
emailed it to you several days ago.
Haven't read it yet,
Okay,
so.
well,
so there are also two things though. There's a meeting coming up, right?
on the 17th,
So there's a meeting next Friday,
a week from, yeah.
that another regionalization meeting with the groups that have been meeting. So I think they were hoping to have this, who was on board, who wasn't on board,
Right.
by then.
Right, to start building the database of resources. What do you think, Scott?
Well, it's a good thing if we can get it all together, but you gotta agree to 9 towns in Lincoln County that work together.
No, that's, well, they would all sign this document and submit it to the auditor's office and to Economic Development Council, but you only have to work together with one other town during the incident, unless you need resources that,
You can pick and
this
choose.
person's
correct?
got a level 2 and this person's got a backhoe.
Or there might only be 5 people that say there are 5 towns and cities that want to do it.
Yeah,
Those are the 5
that's true.
that are part of it. The other 4 might say, screw it, we're going to go it ourselves.
Yeah,
So you don't have to do it. I don't see. I got it when Sherry sent it to me, and we talked about it before. I don't see any issue with us. We're not really. It doesn't fully commit us,
it doesn't.
and it just gives us some options. And it, obviously, if they call us and say, "I need, can you come down?" and we got a water leak, Scott's like, I can't leave, then we don't have to go down there. They can
Right,
call the next guy on the
right.
list. So we're not obligated, it doesn't
Absolutely.
obligate us to actually,
There is no obligation.
it just says that we want to participate and that we might use it, and if we have the resources available, if something comes up, that we would be willing to consider it. We're not forced to take it.
Right.
If Odessa calls us and they need us, we can say, sorry, can't do it today.
No participating member shall be under any obligation to provide assistance to a damaged member.
Is this intended to be accompanied by a list of assets that different cities have? For example, if we were to sign this, how would Elmira know that we have a Vector truck?
They don't. This is part of the progress of this whole.
So if we had a breakdown and we needed to call Elmira, we would tell them what we need. They would let us know if they have it.
But they're probably, well, she said too, I think that this is the first start, and then there would be next steps of asset inventory. Like what are we willing, what can we offer? We can offer only two things. We have a street sweeper and is an example of backhoe. Those are the only two things that we can offer if we needed to. Someone else calls and says they have some other piece of equipment. They have 3 level 2 operators and they have, 3 shovels. That's what they have.
Who would be the principal contact in our city? Would they call the city clerk, the
Janice.
mayor? Or
Janice would be the first
so she'd have
contact.
to know what equipment we have.
Well,
That goes in working in concert with
Right.
our public works person. Ultimately, I think it's the mayor that would make that decision when the mayor would say, yes, we can do it. Or he or she
but
would
she
talk.
would be the first contact. They would call the
They
city
call City Hall.
Right. Excuse me.
This is just granting federal assistance to
Well,
our area.
County assistance.
Well, no, it's federal if we're signing this. It's FEMA.
Well, no, the rates are FEMA.
Yeah, the rates are FEMA. It's got nothing to do with FEMA directly. They're just using FEMA's rates as a guideline.
This all come apart when down.
Federal assistance
New
granted
Mexico
to the area through
California.
FEMA.
They,
That states written.
I know.
There was
It's
like
not-
200-300, whatever it is, water districts, but
They each had their own thing.
they each had their own thing, and they all worked together in a regionalization and built one big system that they all maintain. They all shared in a part of it, and it's worked out good. 'Cause they've gotten mutual aid, they piped between 2 little towns, and
And this is what came out of this is what came from the cities that participated, because they didn't know what if you guys remember, Lincoln County got a grant. Actually, the Department of Commerce, Washington State Department of Commerce, granted Lincoln County as a pilot project because we have several, and they were hoping it would be wastewater treatment and helping with operators. But that wasn't what really the group was looking at the time, and so after several meetings, this is where they want to start at, to say let's have baby steps. Let's just start here and get an agreement in place that we would be willing to help each other in that time, and then over time we can say what can we add, what can we not add. So this is basically the first step in that this is what's come out of that. So this is the first step of going forward, essentially.
Right.
it's going to evolve over a long period of time.
Pardon, Scott?
It's going to evolve over a long period of time.
Well, I'd make a motion that we go forward.
I'll second that motion.
So motion by Councilmember Slack, seconded by Luck. Any further discussion?
Not from me.
All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstained? Okay, 5-0. Okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, couple points of it. Well, Peter had a question on the leaky truck status.
Have you had time to talk to the guy who owns this truck out here?
The Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, I'll call the company and tell them their truck's sitting on the street leaking oil.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. I mean, you don't give a rip whether it leaks oil or not.
The Department of Transportation might want to get involved in that too.
You what?
DOT.
If it's more than a level 1 leak, they shut it down. You can't just be leaking like that. It's not safe.
It's leaking a lot of oil.
Yeah, it's a safety hazard.
So that's the same truck, Peter, that ripped down one of our light poles.
Let's get them.
They already, so here's the other thing. So what I know, some of this happened in the last week of the year, but Bunny had talked to Bigfoot and told him, so that's why he's parked. So after he pulled the light pole down on this side, he started backing his truck in across the way. But people were complaining that he was going came out in front of the Opera House, and then would back up in front of the highway with no flagger, blocking the highway, and the time it takes, whatever that's, 5 seconds, 12 seconds,
Yeah.
whatever. So people complained that when he would back up, he was blocking the highway with no flagger, causing a traffic impediment to back up, to park up there.
Do we know who the driver is?
Yes. And so his next step was to park about 4 feet off the sidewalk on that side of the street so that he wouldn't hit any more power poles. Or angels on the power poles, which are now gone. But in what we've seen now is, and that's parked right there, that apparently it's leaking oil or leaking something. So that's how that evolved. So we can call them again and let them know that they have the same truck is not only destroying our light poles but destroying our
Is spilling oil on our
asphalt.
on our streets.
Yes.
I know we've dealt with the semi-parking on the parking part of this, not the oil part. We've dealt with this before. What do we come up with for parking for 18-wheel vehicles? What happened? I don't even know if I was even actually on the council yet. Maybe I was. I don't remember. But as far as parking goes,
That's there's only a few streets that are rated to
Accommodate
rated
the
for the
weight.
weight to support the weight. Because when a truck parked up here in front of Paul Charlton's gas station, it caused the weight of that. The road wasn't strong enough,
Right.
and that's where our water line is, and caused some leaks, or led to part of that problem. So I don't know that well enough, but I know there's only a few streets that are rated for actually parking a full combination
semi.
truck
18-wheelers.
truck and trailer on certain. So we don't have every street doesn't.
it's a state highway though, parking right there,
On
right?
State Highway, that 3rd Street,
Right away.
4th Street, and Main Street, and that's about it as far
What I'm getting at is where is he supposed to park? That's my question. Nothing to do with the oil, just parking space. People don't like him backing in there. He's trying to get out of the road.
Richville.
We got a truck driver here.
Can I, as a member, a resident downtown, and as a commercial professional truck driver,
Truck parker, you park trucks too. Your truck, I mean.
I like to park by my house.
Yeah.
I can park anywhere. I prefer not to leave my truck on the 50-yard line, where this is. That's what I call the 50-yard line, because it's kind of an eyesore, honestly. You know, I think the downtown historic district should have some kind of an ordinance that says, hey, you can park here, come in and enjoy our coffee shop and, shop and do whatever, but no overnight parking perhaps in this 3-block district.
No.
Maybe we need to come up as a city with an ordinance that could be, a courtesy, like when I drive it to communities that if I park on a place and I don't know their bylaws, I might get a courtesy notice or I might get a $150 ticket. It's totally legit to enforce commercial parking, especially when we're trying to do a downtown historic district, keep it beautiful and keep it looking nice. I mean, there's a lot of truck traffic, that goes through town.
But maybe, like I said, overnight parking maybe is.
Yeah.
I think Scott had a great recommendation. I'm sorry.
Would that be the Green River ordinance?
I don't know. But I think Scott made a good recommendation, which is that parking may be over in the gravel area, kind of outside the paved area, like in the...
By the grain,
Yeah.
by the scales over there.
Yeah, maybe that could be an option. I mean, but there's a lot, I live on that corner, and I see a lot of trucks come over the railroad tracks, I see a lot of trucks come in and out of the different warehouses, and they're heavy, they have over 100,000 pounds gross of grain, logs, cattle, I mean, you name it, it all goes to town. And we don't want to be an unfriendly place for guys that make a living doing that. but we also should have some enforceable parking. That is a guideline, you know, that.
Even this morning, the DOT guy, the commercial vehicle state patrol
Yeah.
pulled over a truck and trailer, like a pickup truck with a piece of equipment on it, Denny, for 45 minutes. He had a new trainee, so he was going through everything, but those guys could come in every day. I mean, same thing, we can talk to them. We just have to call, I think first step is probably just call them and say, hey, you guys are because the guy's tried 3 different times, different options, so he's trying to do something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the fact he's trying, there's 2 different issues though. One, we have truck parking, but we also have a leaking truck. So we just tell them, hey, you have a truck. I mean, another one of their truck drivers stops every day for coffee, and it seems like their company is very.
Where's Bigfoot based?
Rice, Washington.
Right up by Kettle Falls. Yeah, so way north. But they haul every day from north. They go all the way down to Wallula.
Yeah.
And they have those. That's a chip truck. They're hauling chips out of. So. So we can. I think that's the first thing to do is call them and let them know and see, and then maybe somebody mentioned, look at. I don't know. I know Scott has talked before about it, and Bunny with me previously about we have signs, right, Scott? We have no truck parking signs.
We did have, I have to get new ones.
But we have to probably then look, if we had those signs, or probably we did maybe have a previous ordinance that we had to just do some research
We
on.
never had an ordinance, but we did have no truck parking over here alongside the Opera House, one sign at one time. But that was because there used to be an old manhole that was just a tin
Okay.
cover, and they drove over, caved it in a couple times.
Well, there's another facet to this, and that's the damage has been done. The damage to the pavement has been done.
Well, luckily for the city and not for the state, that's a state highway.
If that truck does damage
we
on a
should-
state highway, then
Yeah.
the state needs to probably rethink their building capabilities. So I don't think he's done any damage to the pavement.
Those leaking oils, the damage to the
It's over the
oil is
asphalt.
it's just oil, so.
But it shouldn't be, I mean, you just don't want it to leak, so we can, so.
Yep.
But it's not, luckily though, it happens to be in our city, but that's a state highway that we're not responsible for.
Maybe we should contact the Washington Department of Transportation, have them look at it.
Yeah,
To
no,
my eye, the pavement has been damaged, but I want to look at it in the daylight.
that's fine.
Who's going to do that?
The
I
acting
will.
mayor.
I will.
I was going to propose. Do you have the driver's name?
I can get it.
Okay, good.
All right, so a couple points of order or points of information for the council. Janet should need to help me, but our attorney Joshua Grant, who took us on last year after our other attorney retired, informed us today that he's raising his rates by $10 per hour in 2020. What does he charge us?
It was at 150, it went to 160.
So he charges us going to charge us $160. He informed us that he charges other cities around $250 an hour. So this was the recommendation from Cynthia. The attorney we have was the recommendation when they were retired. So we don't use the attorney that much anyway. So it's just a point of information that our rates are going up. I asked Treasurer Cronrath if we needed to, he said, just bring it up to the council just as a point of information so you know. Also, I sent an email out maybe on Sunday over the weekend, but there's a community forum meeting on this Sunday at Memorial Hall.
Right.
So all the council members are invited to attend as citizens to see what's going on because they're trying to get all the groups there. And so you guys have that information and there's flyers. And then this was something to bring up if we want to consider we can't consider tonight, or not that we can't, but we wouldn't. But a couple of former council members asked me about where we were at because we started talking about it 2 years ago, but about if we had any inclination or desire to for our bills, like we always approve the bills after they've been paid, after we've already incurred them, is do we want to have any prior approval required prior to purchase? So for anything, so I guess 2 years ago, we put in place that anything over $200 from
Yes.
for maintenance, or I mean, for public works, had to have the mayor's approval, to do, and Scott and I did that last year, and we've got a lot of that worked out. But if we had a previous conversation when Mr. Cronoff is on the council, says like at the school, anything he wants to buy, before he buys it, he has to have approval from the principal or the superintendent.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's something that the council wants to bring or take up this year, of having, prior approval on the things that we, obviously, Avista, we're not going to get prior approval for, but things that we're spending on, do we want to have, whether it's the clerk purchasing it or the, city maintenance crew purchasing it, do we want to have those approved by the mayor? I would assume it's the mayor. So I wanted to put that out there tonight to see if we wanted to consider that going for, next couple meetings, discuss that, what that's going to entail. That's going to, again, mean more work for, the mayor, for the clerk, and for the public works person. So
I think it'd be good as long as we have somebody there to be able to do that, i.e. the mayor.
yeah. But I mean, and I think, again, more things to work out or how to discuss it. But
Yeah.
I guess I told the people I'd bring it up tonight just to do it. So, all right.
Is that in regards to like supplies that, like checks, envelopes, daily need supplies?
Well,
Printer paper.
it can be
Printer
anything.
paper?
It can be anything.
Or are we talking,
No, so right now we have it. What the council
because
put
that's
in.
kind of hard to run an office when you have to call and say, I need stamps, I need printer paper.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm
I'm
just putting
the
it out
messenger.
there. That's really
In this
hard to-
instance, I don't know. It different. I said we had a school.
don't care.
We had the school as the example last time. That anything they want to buy, a pencil, they have to have approval for it.
We do the same way.
County does the same way. Is that an extreme? Maybe it is, but that's it. Or right now, what we have in place is anything over for the public works.
When there's that many people, I agree.
Well,
We're a little smaller in this setting.
yeah. So that's why I'm just the messenger
just-
here, and so and yeah, he shot me. So I just as a council we can decide that, and obviously get the input from the clerk who has to face that.
Right.
The mayor, who would have to be more willing or available, or and also with Scott from the maintenance crew. So it's just put it out there, and we can bring it up again, and maybe one of our committees can look at it. But I just wanted to see if that's something we wanted to, or at least put a bug in your ear. So, and that's also in relation to our last council meeting. We talked about the budget. How do we can control some of our spending?
Right.
How do we control it? That's a control of spending. So, yeah. Which now leads us to, we're exactly at 2 hours.
Light poles,
Well,
status update?
Scott said that we haven't, one of them I know are insurance, the one in front here.
Okay.
The second one, Scott said he's gonna have to get with us still. And the third one, that's the city's responsible, or that was a city, or an act that no one is responsible
Is
for.
that the one that was taken down by the aliens?
Yes. So that's.
Oh,
just
the wind?
the
Whatever
wind.
it was, it just disappeared.
An unknown source.
Yes.
So we have to probably turn that, or we'll talk to Scott either about
Alright.
insurance or trying to see if we can band it together. But
The pole disappeared?
no, it just fell over.
That was sarcasm on my part, sorry.
It didn't disappear, but they take about 7 weeks right now, they're backlogged? Or
10 to 12 weeks for the poles
Insurance will
alone.
say it was an
So
act of God.
it's gonna take a couple months to get them, no matter what, even when we order them. So just have to deal with that. But
Are they fiberglass, or what are they made out of?
Yeah, fiberglass.
Get spares there?
Nope.
no. So we come to the public comment, and you guys all waited patiently. Is there any other public comment that you'd like to open up for the council to consider, or?
I just had one quick question, follow up earlier. If annexed, are the city still gonna give free water and sewer to the fire department?
No.
Nope.
The fire district would start paying, now the water, so two other parts that didn't come up tonight were the fire truck that we have right now. The city would probably sell the fire truck to them. We haven't discussed what that would cost, or I don't know. So they would do that, and then they would start paying for sewer and water at the fire hall, and we'd have to come up with an agreement on the water out of where they fill the trucks with.
The main deal.
And it might be, I don't know how, I mean, we can look at the last several years of how many calls there were when they had to refill, but is it, like, I know at my house, I get so many thousands of gallons for my base rate, so that would probably, because that fire hall, they probably flush a toilet 5 times a month. One night a month when we're all have training, and it's probably 5 times, and the water out of there is minimal. So most of the water, and like Ron said, this year there was one field fire, and then there was another fire that was supposed to be a controlled burn that got out of control. But so it was a really light fire season this year, so they didn't use that much. So it might fall into the same gallonage as a commercial user. I don't know if the commercial usage is the same as residential, the base rates. I mean, the gallonage.
The gallons of.
So, but they would start paying that.
Okay.
I think it's $25 a thousand commercial for the first 1,000, and then it goes up. It's a few cents a thousand after that.
How much are you charging these guys?
$200.
Okay.
But I don't know, my bill over there, I mean, we don't use that much water at the coffee shop, so our bill's never been over the allowed usage type of thing. But when I water my grass in the summer, it does.
I
Yeah,
have to work to
yeah.
go over, but it
Um,
happens.
But yeah, so that they will start paying as a user right now, because they aren't right now.
Justin, I'd like to make a remark.
Yes.
Please.
I really feel the city is not being fair to our two employees. I work in town all day, every day, and I've observed the hours that Bunny and Scott put in. It'd been nice if they could have taken vacations. Bunny's age would have prevented her from leaving very long at a time. Even if she had, and I presume they could say the same for Scott too, their phones would have run off the hook. If she'd taken 2 weeks off, she might as well have been here, because it wouldn't have been fair to Janice at that time to leave without Bunny's knowledge. And I just feel that the city isn't being fair to them because of the history of them always getting it and then not being told until after the fact they weren't going to get it. I think it was very unfair. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
If you don't mind me adding, I think if you ask Janice, you'll find out the truth of the matter is that Bunny stayed during part of that vacation because Janice had to go to meetings. And I don't know if it was AWC meetings, but I know for a fact that she had planned on being off, but couldn't be.
There was two days. It was a Thursday and a Friday that we had planned it. No, I'm well aware.
So, and the rest of the time, part of the time that she was here, Janice was off sick. But, so I'm just saying there's more to this story than what was laid out, and that's all I have to say.
I have a question about the vacation. Scott, you get so much a year that's given to you Jan 1, or do you accrue it monthly?
I believe I accrue it.
You don't get 2 weeks to start off the year
Time to 5 weeks a year.
from January 1, or is it a monthly
Well,
accrual of
I
hours?
accrue from
Do you know that answer, Justin?
I don't know.
I don't know. I know you can go negative, so if Scott took 2 weeks off, if Scott took 2 weeks off tomorrow, well, Scott's taking 4 days off. Tomorrow and Friday, Monday and Tuesday. He didn't already accrue 4 days in the first 10 days, or, by next Tuesday it'll be the 14th. He didn't already accrue 4 days in the first 14 days of
Okay,
the month.
so it's not right off the bat, then you accrue it.
Well, no, but I mean, he didn't accrue it, but he's taking it, so that's something that,
Well, yeah, I know what you're getting at, but there's a difference.
Some places get January 1st.
You get
David
that
gets
many.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
You can take it for the next 4 weeks right now. Some places, though, January 1, you don't get that. You get 4 weeks of vacation, but they give you X amount of hours per month.
Yeah, usually 8 hours accrual, and
Yeah.
they have a cap now in the last, probably like 5-10 years. They started trying to transition over to PTO instead of sick leave, vacation, and personal holidays. So they go all that, they'll call it one. But generally, it's bargained union. And the other sector kind of follows it, mirrors it too. But they accrue so much a month. It used to be 8, as soon as January 1st comes around, you got 8 hours. Then they change it to bi-weekly or bi-monthly, 4 and 4. But there's a cap. Like they have people retiring from the airport that had like 5,000 hours of vacation time, and that amounted to a pretty good check when they retired. So they didn't want that liability, so they started, I think when I left there, you can only hold over about 1,100 hours or something.
So our policy says, because it's the liability,
Mine's use it or
in the
lose
annual
it at the
report,
school.
it says, what are the city's liabilities? And so we don't pay out sick time when if there's any sick time that's accrued, you only get that per year. So you don't accrue it, and when you're done, there's no payout. And then it said every year, at the end of each year, at the mayor's discretion, up to 75% of the unused vacation can be paid out. So that's what, so that way there is no liability to the city, any long-term liability. So that's what our policy says. Again, I work at a financial institution that has a use it or lose it policy, and no payout. So everyone is different.
With one exception, I think, I don't know, I'm sure they do have that, aware of that too. But if, say example, Scotty put in for it, Keith takes off, it's approved, but something comes up, boy, Scotty, you can't go. There's emergency, if he's denied his vacation, then I think, I don't know, can't tell you for sure if it's a state law, but definitely an employee relationship, you get paid, either take it off another time, but if it comes to the end of the year, he would be, obligation would be to pay him for a time that he was denied to take. Does that make sense?
It does. No, it does.
The only reason I asked that question is because I've seen places that give you your total vacation right off the bat. You could blow it in the first month.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that, because if that was the case, and those people would know that they have to burn that time. You know, you don't get to the end of the year and
that's how it is. So we had last year we had the other employee. He was sick. I don't know how many sick days we get, but he burned through his sick days in the first month of the year. So then he had other day, and he burned through his vacation days. So every day after that he took off, he was negative. So it was without pay because he went into the hole 10 days.
Yeah.
So I mean that's
What's this, well, is FMLA, this new law gonna affect these employees at all?
Paying more money.
It can. It says that that's Family Medical Leave Act that says that if
You're already covered on it.
they have, I mean, we have to pay
Paying
for
for
it. And so if they have an issue that requires them to be off that falls under the FMLA, then that's run through the state, but they get the time off. They're protected class if they fall under that.
Yeah. I was wondering that, well, some of the stuff is just new to the part of the working force.
Yeah. So
What's the magnitude of the claim by the former city clerk and by the maintenance foreman?
I don't know how many hours.
I do.
How many hours? I don't know.
That would,
It's 100.
you do or don't?
107 hours. I know.
107 hours.
Yeah, Bunny's was close.
Is this an issue we can revisit, or is it the mayor's discretion to make the decision?
Mayor's discretion.
The way the policy reads that I did not write says it's at the mayor's discretion. So
And those numbers have already been,
It's done. It's a settled affair.
But isn't there also a policy with RCWs that if it's already been happening through the years, it can't be changed?
New precedents?
I don't know, but again, I don't know that answer. But when I asked last year, when I walked into that situation, I said, I think I recall hearing that it's been done both ways. Now, I don't know when that's been done, so I don't know. I don't know how long that policy's been in place.
Might I suggest that probably, you do what you want, but I mean, probably that policy procedure should be revisited and updated for, spelled out better for everybody. Just a thought.
No, it could be a 40-year-old policy. I don't know. I have no idea. So it's a great recommendation for the acting mayor.
We
I think there's a lot of those policies and procedures
That need to be looked at.
Yeah, you
We
bet.
have the City of Harrington Employment Policy Manual adopted December 13th, 1989 that says vacation time shall not be cumulative, but must be taken during the period in which it is earned, except by advance approval by the mayor, or it shall be automatically forfeited.
So that's explaining that you gotta
How
take
many
it.
hours from prior years does she
According to
have?
that book,
0.
You can't,
So
it doesn't
she's-
carry over. You lose it, it doesn't carry
It
over.
doesn't carry over. That's what this
That's all I
says.
can find.
that's the city's policy manual that has been added to, tore up, written, never produced to a city employee. That is not right. And there's the other copy of it that the city attorney's lawyer redid, and it's sitting there bound. It was supposed to be gone through by the previous mayor, and it didn't get gone through. And you're quoting out of that book, and it's not even in policy.
Sherry, is there a grievance policy in there?
Pardon me?
Is there a grievance procedure or policy?
There's a grievance policy in this
Sure.
one.
What, Janice?
You'd be upset too if you lost that.
I'm just,
I didn't
I'm
say-
trying to find that same policy in this one.
well, I suggest that the new mayor or whatever, that this type of stuff gets pounded out, that you don't run into this anymore. You know,
I'll tell you that, David, that what I know, there's a lot of these, there's probably hundreds of these things sitting here. And the challenge that we had was we had the same mayor, the same clerk, and the same city for 35 to 40 years.
Yeah.
And so they knew really well.
Now this
I
one,
leaned on Bunny for institutional knowledge
this one's
going
is
through
different.
that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Okay, let me just
Do this later.
Yeah, let's do this later. I need to read through all of it.
It's,
I know, but I need to
negotiate at the airport.
review.
Well, here's what happens, and this is what I think that happens. I think that some of this stuff is neglected for so long, it's not even looked at, and then to have somebody fresh come in here and try to sort these things out, that, like he's saying, that was taken care of this way for 35 years. Well, that way might not have been right. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
But to have, then you have a fresh face on it, and then you look at it, you read it 2 different ways in 2 different books, and they say, well, I never
Right,
even used either one of those.
I've never even opened up these policy manuals
The policy that
before.
the previous guy used was out of a different sheet of paper. It's hard for us as a council and a mayor to go over these things and then to get everything exactly how people want them.
Exactly.
So when you consider all the extra hours that Bunny and Scott put in, it's just not good.
Well, who's
It
the,
is not good.
she brings up a good point, but who's the relief crew? These guys, I mean, it's really kind of a pickle they're in because these are your guys and women, or people.
Right.
It's like a doctor, you only have one doctor, when he leaves, what do you do?
Well, we could hire 2 more guys, right?
I mean,
Couldn't we?
volunteers or council, whatever.
I've paid another 2 paid
That's
full
the
people.
problem that the city,
Just raise the
city
rates.
has,
We can
we,
pay
is
2
how
more
to,
people
I mean,
$35,000 a year.
so the city of Ritzville people were in today at the coffee shop. They have 3 clerks. They have a clerk, they have a clerk 2, and a clerk 1. I mean, we have it at our school. My wife used to work, when she came here, worked at the school, there's 2 people in the front office. She would go to this thing, and 1 person works here. She'd go, and another school would have 5 people for the same system, where they have 1 person. The small towns get hurt, so we have 1 person here in the city hall and 2 people outside. No, I mean, Scott doesn't take a vacation, he says I can't, or Bunny says I can't take it. I mean, those are, the city doesn't have anything in place to say, what do you do?
Right.
In prior times, we have in our pay schedule that if somebody comes in here to work on behalf of the clerk, which is basically answering the phones, because they can't do the receipting very well, I don't think they know how, or, that we pay them a minimum wage. And then when that person comes back from vacation, they have a pile this tall, but that's been in place for, 50, Mary Alice was before Bunny. So however long, I don't know how long Mary Alice was here. Yeah, so, so those are the things. But again, to their point is if we hired 2 more people to be in City Hall, that's gonna be on that means we have to raise the rates
Yeah.
for everything else for the city people. I mean, it's a quandary.
I guess it'd be kind of like a vice president, or somebody that you just pay him his wage, or, it's a hard thing. I mean, you can't expect, if there's a water leak, first of all, where the hell would you shut it off for number 1? I mean, anybody can dig
Just
one.
like tonight, Scott's at the meeting and Bunny was always here, and now Janice is. they're expected to do after hours work.
They get paid.
They're getting paid for this.
Yeah, but Bunny never, ever left at 5 o'clock. And I notice now that the light's on here for Janice, but she's here after 5 o'clock.
So what I learned from Bunny, and I didn't know this till last year, was Bunny was on a 7-hour a day salary. That was long before I was here. So, but she took 3 hours of work home every night. Again, that's what I walked into it. I mean, Bunny and I had discussions
Tell my
on trying to
job
do different things. Janice is on an 8-hour salary, is what that's set up as.
She works more than that
no.
already.
Right, but a salary, I mean, it's based on an 8-hour day, but when you're I'm a salaried employee, my employer doesn't, some days I work 50 hours a week, sometimes I might work 35, sometimes I might work, it averages out. I mean, I don't know, but those are things in the city that, I mean, those are, again, I think from our council, 3 of our council members, including myself, are less, I mean, these are brand new people, a year and a half. And again, myself is 4 years total, and these 2 folks, but a lot of this predates all of us here.
We got to deal with these things as they come up, and that's why we're having some growing pains here, because things are coming up.
It was a slap in the face for Bunny because of the, she's 80 years old, and she put in all this time here because she loved the city, and then after always receiving her vacation and then not to her last paycheck, to me it was a slap in the face for all she did for the city.
May I ask a question on the subject? Would we have been able to pay them out, given the fine and everything, and still, were we already in debt as it was? Because you made a mention to say that you were told that we were going to be over budget on everything. Where did we actually come out?
As far as I know, we had extra, well, I don't know the exact funds, but I know in the sewer fund, we had $5,000 to pay that fine.
So out of the funds that we could have paid this, would we be over budget if we would have paid it or not?
I can't answer that question. All I know, I mean, I don't know the answer other than I know that we're not negative right now. Now, does that mean we're not negative because we have $10 left in the fund? I don't know what those final balances are.
At the end of the day, you can only pay the money that we have in the bank account. So I think if I was in the seat with it, I offer my 2 cents to say that it matters whether we had the money to pay out in the first place. Otherwise, you're talking about putting the city into a position of debt in order to meet that commitment.
But I'm understanding there was funds, is that right?
He's saying that he does not.
When I started this process with it 2 weeks before the end of the year, it was the sky is falling, every single thing, and then that turned out not to be true, that we weren't negative everywhere. Now, did we have $10 more in the account? That's where our balance ended up at. I at least know that we ended up positive. I don't know I don't know from the treasurer's, I don't have that, or I didn't have that.
And see, that's the liability with your accrued vacations and all that. I strongly recommend.
So pretty soon though, we just got this new system, the magic button, that we're gonna have that on a real-time basis. And so again, somebody earlier said that there's more to the story. There's a lot of things that I could say on instances on every single thing, but
everybody knows.
It was the best decision that I made, the information I had that I thought was best going
It
forward.
should be respected too. But the good thing is, when you walk out of here tonight, your headache will go away.
It's already gone away. It's been about an hour and a half ago.
On a lighter note, a little bit, I'm not sounding like I'm ratting on people, but it's a concern, and we've all, I think, been guilty to some degree. But I just happened to see it today where I live on 5th and Sherlock there. And of course, the troops, the city guys, and county too, they're not, immune from this. But I don't know who would talk to an employee. They just were heading down to the sewer goons in the pickup or the dump truck, and just totally full speed blew across that. I mean, your family uses that intersection.
Yeah, we live right.
I mean, people get kind of lackadaisical and kind of stop and look and roll through it, but this was just a plain and they were doing a lot of it. And I'm just going, I'd like to, so nobody gets hurt or he doesn't get a ticket. I mean, that's all the city needs is that city truck to hit somebody or a kid or something there.
And there's always, well, not now, but otherwise, it, There's always kids playing right there on
Yeah,
our
they are.
corner.
But
Right.
The balls, I mean,
But just a kind reminder to them to, you know, kind of half-ass obey the stop
Pay attention,
signs,
right.
You know?
No,
I mean, if it wasn't snowy and slick and slid through it, it's just getting more careless and reckless about the signs.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
Not
I
only
mean, I'm
happened,
not, don't say who, well, you can tell who told, I won't.
Move to adjourn.
David, it don't only happen on your street.
Well,
At 9:31, we have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Davenport. Is there a second?
In our
By
alley. Every
Councilmember
day.
Shank. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same
Aye, aye,
sign. All right. Thanks, council. Thank you, citizens.
Beat me to it today.
you know, when I